Hi guys, so today's video is a bit of a unique one in the sense it's a comparison between two different games, which is something I've not really done before. For those of you who are unaware, a couple of days ago a new trailer was dropped for Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, and basically the trailer included a discussion from the producer at Toys for Bob about the new exciting gameplay mechanics coming to the game, which is due to be released on the 2nd of October. Whilst watching this trailer, there were so many things that the developers have taken from previous Crash Bandicoot games and expanded on. This really got me thinking, as recently I did a video discussing what I thought the biggest issue with BFN was, and one of the topics I discussed was innovation and replication. From what I saw in the Crash Bandicoot trailer, it really spoke to me as a very good approach to developing a sequel in a game franchise and what I feel is the correct way to innovate. As usual, just before we begin, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons if you enjoy the content on this channel and want to help it grow. Anyway, let's get started. So just a quick recap for those of you who didn't watch my biggest issue with BFN video. Basically, my main concern was that unlike Garden Warfare 1 and 2, in BFN it feels like the devs lost sight of what made a great PvZ shooter game, and it was almost as if a meeting was never held to just discuss what worked really well from Garden Warfare 2 and what did not. There seems to be a lot of elements that worked really well in Garden Warfare 2 that just seem to be either missing or have been changed and innovated on for no particular reason in Battle for Neighborville. Now, on the flip side of that coin, it could be argued that BFN is separate from the Garden Warfare series, but either way, the game still appears to try and stay similar to the other games. I could go on longer about this, but I think you get the main point. If you do want more details, the link to the other video is in the description. So where does Crash Bandicoot 4 fit in with this? Well, if we take a look at this new trailer, there are a couple of points I really think are worth taking note of, and potentially things Popcap and EA should possibly consider with other PvZ shooter games in the future. So right out of the gate, after a short introduction and contextualization of Crash 4, we get this statement, which I think is vital.
So for us at Toys for Bob, we felt that it was important to reintroduce longtime fans, as well as new players, to this amazing franchise.
Now, this opening statement I think is so important, and is something unfortunately a lot of games companies at the moment seem to be forgetting, and this is the importance of your existing fan base. These are the people who made your franchise or game so successful in the past. These fans loved your games for specific reasons, and whilst innovating and changing your game is great and should be encouraged, if you change your product, particularly the core mechanics, too much too quickly, it can have negative impacts. Whilst getting new players interested in your series is important for the longevity of a game, expanding the audience and ultimately leading to more sales, but if you lose your die-hard fans in the process, is it worth it? In some cases yes, and in others no, and it's an important question that needs to be asked. From what I've seen so far, it's great to see that the devs at Toys for Bob have really considered the importance of their long-term fan base. To do this, they have kept the style of the gameplay that people know and love the same, but have expanded and innovated through things like new gameplay mechanics, a different art style, new characters and replayability options. So that's what we're going to discuss next. First up, we have revisiting previous locations that have featured in other games. Now, so many games have done this in the past, and it always gives you a great feeling of nostalgia when you revisit somewhere you haven't been to for a long time. But Crash 4 hasn't added in levels from previous games, just a new art style. We get to actually revisit Insanity Beach, but what appears to be a different part of the beach, which I think is new and exciting, but it still has the look and feel of what was experienced before, which overall I think is a nice way to bring the old and the new together. Next up, we have the addition of the 4 quantum masks. So in the original trilogy of Crash Bandicoot, Crash had Aku Aku, a magical mask that served as a guardian angel that could allow you to take more than one hit from enemies before you died, and if you collected 3 of the same mask in a row, you would go into an invincibility mode where enemies could no longer hurt you for a short period. However, falling down a massive hole would still kill you. So now instead of 1 mask, there are going to be 4 in the game that will not only help you but actually add new mechanics to the game. For example, 1 mask, Kapuna Wa, allows you to slow down time and enables you to cross fast moving platforms you wouldn't be able to normally. So again, they've took something that worked in previous titles and expanded on it to make it even more interesting. As well as that, new mechanics in general have been added. This includes new ways to traverse, such as rail riding, rope swinging, wall running, zip lining, and possibly more. On to new characters. Now, in the original trilogy, you could only play as Crash, and for some specific levels, you could play as Coco. However, Crash 4 allows you to not only play as new characters, but some of these new characters are actually the bad guys, such as Neo Cortex and Dingodile, which is a really interesting take. Yes, I know other games have featured Cortex, but I'm referring to the trilogy. Again, a great example of innovation, but without compromising what was great from previous games. This is also a great addition as it accommodates for both new and old players. It excites the returning fans as you get to play as characters you didn't think you'd ever be able to play with, and for new players it just adds some more variety to the game. The final innovation I want to mention is new outfits. In previous games, Crash had some different outfits for specific levels, but now new skins can be applied to Crash and Coco to play through the entire game. It was also mentioned that these skins can be obtained through the game and not by microtransactions. Now, this doesn't mean there's going to be no MTX in the game, it just means these skins won't be, which I think is really great. It's also interesting and quite funny how not having microtransactions is being used in the marketing these days. So overall, what am I trying to say about Battle for Neighborville? Well, I think the main point is understanding your audience and franchise and really having a good grasp of what makes your game enjoyable to play. I think that's what can get a little forgotten. Video games need to be fun. It doesn't matter what amazing graphics or thousands of player skins you have. If it's not fun to play, people aren't going to want to play it. Now, a counter argument here I think is that when Popcap got to Garden Warfare 2, they really hit a peak for the series. They had got so much right with the game, where were they supposed to go next? They had tons of skins, characters to play and unlock, game modes, and on top of all that they nailed the gameplay loop, which even today keeps people playing Garden Warfare 2. The natural progression that BFN did expand on was the story mode aspect of GW2, which can be said to be the weakest point of Garden Warfare 2. And whilst they did that to an extent, they also changed a lot of things unnecessarily as it already worked extremely well. Perhaps the only thing that they needed to change was the story mode, and the rest of the mechanics could have stayed pretty much the same as Garden Warfare 2. Maybe they should have focused on just adding one new addition to the game, i.e. the PvE regions, and doing an excellent job on that, whilst replicating the awesome parts of the previous titles, and perhaps adding some new characters and different variants. Ultimately, I think Crash Bandicoot 4 has really seemed to have understood this concept of innovation and replication really well, and at this current time shows an example to other companies of what goes into making a really great sequel. The only thing I would say is that the game isn't released yet, so lots of things could change, but currently I think Crash 4 is going to be a smash. Anyway guys, that's about it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of this type of video in the comments below, and if it's something you would like to see more of. But other than that, remember to subscribe, and I shall see you in the next one. Okay, thanks guys, bye.